Hey, what's up, fellas? I'm Malicious Female Fan Steve Malicious here with the iPhone 13 Pro after 48 hours, and I can tell you, one of the first iPhones in years that I can actually feel good about recommending the upgrade, even if you have an iPhone 12 Pro. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, I see a lot of information, a lot of stuff on Twitter, a lot of criticism even, that these phones are boring now, that iPhone stuff is not interesting, the views are down for it, and I just think that's because this isn't an enthusiast device anymore, right? It's not something that you need to watch 20 videos on to see all the new features, because really the new features aren't even that new. But even though there's not that many enthusiasts into iPhones anymore, these are still terribly important devices because of the consumer base that they service and the length of time that they service it for, right? Grandma or your 65-year-old mother, whoever it happens to be, they're not picking up one of these, right? iPhones have essentially become, in a lot of ways, the flip phones of that generation. And in fact, it's a heck of a lot easier to do stuff on an iPhone now than it is on some of those KaiOS flip phone devices. So this serves a lot of different people. There's a reason why they're not massive upgrades every single year, because they have to support these features, keep them running well, keep it a simple and inviting operating system for people, whether it be their first phone or whether phones later in life or whatever it happens to be, whatever in between. This has to be the safe haven for people who are not necessarily enthusiasts into tech. So we'll talk about all of that today on this edition of Steve Malicious Tech. Now we're back. As always, thank you so much to all the new subscribers getting oh so close to 5,000. If you've been loving the tech, both new and old, and very new, go ahead and give that subscribe button a tussle. It certainly means a lot to me. So let's talk about it, the iPhone 13 Pro. And I gotta tell you, for the first time in however many years, I could actually recommend you upgrading from your iPhone 12 Pro to a 13 Pro without losing any sleep at night. Is it a mandatory upgrade? Is it something you should absolutely run out and do? Is it something you should do if you don't already have a deal through a carrier where you're going to be getting it cheap or getting a phenomenal trade-in deal? No. If you paid full price for your 12 Pro and you're sitting with it and it's still performing fine and you're happy with it, keep it. There's no reason to upgrade to an iPhone 13 Pro. But if you're on the fence, like I said, if you're one of those people that has a carrier deal, an iPhone every year, whatever it is, you get into training, you don't mind because you're just paying your $30 a month no matter what, then go ahead and upgrade. And the first thing I'm going to tell you about is because of the battery. It is a significant difference over previous generations of iPhone. We're talking 6 to 6.5 hours, in my experience, of screen on time. Now, there's a goofy way that you have to calculate it. You have to go into battery settings. Let's see if I could do it. I'll unlock it here real quick with my face, if it wants to do it. And you go into settings, and you have to basically get out your, I think it was Tech Odyssey said you have to get out your calculator. And you could do it and look in here, and I did it last night in 6.5 hours. And that's without even really paying attention to any sort of battery-saving features. And that's with the 120 hertz. But there's a big asterisk by that, because there's 120 hertz on just first-party stuff, on Apple stuff, in the menus, in mail. Now, is it nice? Absolutely. But later on, when they have third-party developers using it, now Apple usually gatekeeps stuff like that pretty tightly. So they're not just going to let any battery-hogging apps make their way onto the App Store if they're using the refresh rate improperly. But you never know when more and more apps throughout your day are using the full ProMotion 120 hertz. That might be something that you run into. Talking about the screen, 120 hertz is nice. I would have liked it on the 12 Pro last year, but it's not something. The battery's what you're really going to run out and get an upgrade for because of that almost, it seems like it was double what you were getting from your 12 Pro by the end of the cycle. It's nice, it's smooth, you do notice the difference, but ProMotion, maybe it's anecdotal, ProMotion to my eyes operates different from other Android devices that had 120 hertz. So it's smooth, it's nice, you notice it, but if you have an iPad Pro that has ProMotion, you know what I'm talking about? You kind of lose track of it, whereas on Android devices, it's ever present and you feel it in every part of what you're doing. Maybe it's because of how aggressive they are with toning it down from the 10 hertz or whatever the minimum is up to the 120. Might have something to do with that. But overall, it's nice. You notice it, but it's not something that you're going to run out and scream and upgrade to just because it's the new thing and you want to get it. If you have a 12 Pro and you're happy with it, like I said, it's not something that you run out and upgrade for. What I will tell you is that in outdoor performance, it is considerably better. So I noticed it when I was in direct sunlight. It was brighter. I was able to see it. It looked richer. It was just an overall very nice panel. Apple and Samsung, still the best panels on the market. And this one, the iPhone 13 Pro, is no different. Camera, I'll throw up some shots. I'm not a big camera guy. I didn't notice a huge difference from the 12 Pro. I'm going to do the cinematic mode and kind of like I said, boil that down into some practical uses in the full review next week. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm sure it's nice. There's lots of other things that they have in the camera, but portrait mode, and then of course the regular shooting seem the same. Decent pictures, very nice. But listen, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. All right. So, if Apple's going to go out there and beat their chest about how, this is a top phone device and all the rest of it and go head to head with Pixel devices, you can't have the lens flare and artifacting that I see on Twitter. I haven't run into it. I'm going to test night mode and night shots and stuff like that, but you can't have that. Other manufacturers and other camera systems don't have that. So it's really unacceptable that you're going to have that. And maybe it's because of how just big this thing is and how big the lenses are. If we could focus in there, I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, whether it's you got to fix it in software, they got to get it fixed. Inexcusable, as even at this price point for $1,000. But most importantly, because Apple's really been hanging their hat on the whole idea of this being a camera system and very impressive and kind of fits in with their whole vibe of it being a social media device. You're taking nice pictures, you're putting them on Instagram, you're taking movies, you're putting it on Facebook, whatever it happens to be. Okay, you're on Twitter. That's really something that they'd have to fix. The notch, okay, listen. The notch for me is binary. It's either there or it's not. So the fact that they made it a little smaller this way doesn't really affect me. I'm nonplussed by that. What is bizarre is that they made it a little deeper into the phone, and you do notice it on some apps like Pokemon Go. It cuts into the raid boss timer. There are some videos that you could see it kind of bleed into a little bit more than it has previously, which is a really odd decision. And like I said, once it's there, I don't really care about it. If it's there, it's there. So I had no problem with the 12 Pro notch and the 11 notch and the whatever all the way down the line, the notch that they've been using for 5 years now. But if you're going to start reducing the size, don't make it taller. Don't make it where you're getting closer to a Pixel 3 XL, because to me that's just goofy. That was one of the ugly. That's a notch that actually bothered me. It was an ugly notch on that phone. So don't get to where you're doing that now on the 13. So I think that's an odd design decision, but whatever. They did what they did. For the rest of it, the build quality is excellent. No problems whatsoever there. Lightning cable, I don't really care about. So it still uses lightning cable. I have a million of them, so it doesn't really make a difference. I went with the white this year for case stuff. I'll tell you something else, though, that's happened, and this is also inexcusable when we're talking about camera and software issues. This is also the least stable iOS supposedly stable release that I've had. This is the most bugs I've had in a 2-day time period on a stable release of iOS forever. There were app freezes. I had and with stock apps, not third-party apps that might not be updated or optimized for iOS 15 yet. I'm talking mail, right? I'm talking weather. I'm talking unlocking the phone. Having stutters, having to hit apps twice, things crashing. Now, no hard crashes, all right? Not a complete reset, but a lot of soft crashes. And it's something you're not used to seeing in an iOS device. It's kind of the thing that you just pick up and go, and it's always going to work, and it's always going to be reliable. All right, this is supposed to be the Toyota and Lexus of electronic devices. Not too fancy, not overly complicated, not really for enthusiasts, but you pick it up and it works every time, and you go, it'll work for 100 years. That's the idea. So to start seeing software hiccups, and you can see a lot of worse ones on Twitter, is a little concerning. So hopefully they clean that up. Otherwise, price, I'm glad they kept it at $1,000. I think that's really a great idea. It's just something that keeps you in the iPhone or the Apple ecosystem, which I think is a good idea. Look, as we talked about in the intro, this is meant not necessarily for enthusiasts. It's just really not, and hasn't been for years. They're not bleeding edge. They're not even cutting edge on a lot of this stuff. But they also, at the same time, have so many other people that they have to bring into the fold who use iPhones and use them for a very long time, and the fact that they support features for a very long time. So it makes them a little bit bland by default. But that's okay. That's what you're getting. So understand that. So while, back in the day you had Mac and PC, and it's confusing me because they ran similar software and they ran software with the same names, but it was very different uses and very different ways of getting there for a very different consumer base. Same now. You know, it's not quite the same people that they're appealing to. So if you're a little bored by this upgrade, if you're a little saying, hey man, this isn't for me, they didn't do enough. Like I've said before with Apple stuff, you're never going to get that train to stop at the station you want it to. You're never going to get the exact feature set you want at the exact price, at the exact time. It's always going to be moving. You just got to jump on, get into the system, or if you're already, most of you watching this are already in the system, and you're upgrading your iPhone and you're happy with it and whatever else, and you should be. Listen, for all the problems, for all the complaints, and all the stuff that they don't do, it is still nice hardware. It is still advanced enough. They run well. They run games well. Still the best social media platform out there. And if they fix those things, you're talking pound for pound, you know, one of the top 2 best camera systems in the market. So that's a lot to be said for $1,000. Let me know what you want to know in the full review, what you want me testing out. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time. Say hello to Pasheen. Still no Pasheen cases out there yet. That's a crime. Have that Steve-alicious day.